Let's dig into the first real deal. Now, there's a pending Obamacare decision which could send Washington, even the stock market, into a tailspin. It certainly has the political world upside down. The White House says there's no plan B. The GOP doesn't have a plan B. I do want to talk about the numbers involved here. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says there's 34 states, obviously, are part of the federal marketplace. Over 10 million Americans have signed up for Obamacare. Through them, 6.4 of them receiving these subsidies, which average $272 a month. That is a lot of money. The big problem with these subsidies, though, and the scheme, really, to be quite frank with you, the whole thing is expensive. It's dissuading millions of people even from signing up, and those who have enrolled have curtailed medical treatment due to how expensive the deductibles are. Next year, when all the gimmicks go away, the premiums are set to make huge increases. What you're looking at right now, those are your deductibles. Imagine you're not going to go to the hospital for a whole lot of small ailments if those are the deductibles you're paying right now, and it gets worse next year. Listen, the bottom line is I think Obamacare is a farce from the start. It's made things worse, and I happen to think the whole thing was illegal. I thought it was sold to us as a lie. Here's the thing, though. Dismantling it right now just might make things worse. Heather, we brought you in because I need you to explain to us the legalities of it all and maybe handicap the decision.
Well, the legalities of it all are very simple. It comes down to 4 words: established by the state. So the way that the law was written, the subsidies were only going to be applicable in states where they established it by the state. Those states that are done federally, they say they're not applicable. So that's what the people that are fighting against the law are saying. They're saying that it doesn't apply in those states.
This is King, the King part of the King versus
yes.
Brumrell. Okay, but I'm still not understanding you. In other words, for me, I just thought it was bait and switch. Like, first time I heard about these subsidies when Congressman Doyle, I think he might be in Pennsylvania. I know he's Pennsylvania, might be in your area. He actually bragged about his son getting subsidies. And then I read the fine print, 400% above poverty, you will get subsidies. That's billions of dollars that wasn't even sold. But is it legal?
Well, the question of it's legal has sort of already been dealt with when the whole decision came down, I think, 2012, that said that the mandate was actually legal. This is more about reading of the law and whether those 4 words mean that the subsidies themselves aren't legal. If the subsidies aren't legal, Charles, then we're going to have a whole lot of problems because now those people are not going to be insured anymore. Other people's insurance is probably going to go up. What you call the death spiral is going to start to happen where other people aren't going to be able to afford it. So that's why we've got such a problem here. If the Supreme Court decides that those 4 words make it illegal, all of a sudden somebody's got to come up with an alternative plan.
What do you think they will? How do you think they'll decide?
I actually, reading some of the other decisions this session, Justice Thomas came up with a decision earlier this session talking about the importance of reading a law for what it actually says and not trying to make it say things that you want it to say. I feel like they may have been tipping their hand. Then again, there's an argument to be said that
What about Roberts? Because everyone kind of thought Roberts, conservatives, they thought Roberts let them down before, that this should be a moot point at this time anyway.
And this may be his payback because he still has an opinion coming. He has a majority opinion coming. They sort of get parsed out among the justices, and he has one coming. So it may be his chance to sort of fix things for his Republican friends.
Jim, here's the thing. Heather said death spiral. I mean, really, honestly, right now, deductibles for a single person, $5,100, for a family, $10,000. Those are nosebleed things. I mean, people have lost their doctors. They're afraid to go to the doctor. They're letting small ailments, what feel like small ailments, compound into bigger ailments. It's already in some form of a death spiral.
Well, only time will tell that. But we do have to have a decision and a debate on this subject. And if it goes against Obamacare, the market doesn't like uncertainty. Business doesn't like uncertainty. This is going to have a short-term, very negative effect on the whole industry. And I think as a result, the economy, because it's a big piece of the economy, and on the stock market. But what we have to do is come up with a plan B. There's got to be an alternative.
And I think that's the real concern here. And you mentioned it before, Charles, that, there's over 6 million people that are getting these subsidies. And if that is changed, we could end up having more people that are uninsured than before we even started with the Affordable
costs
Care
are going to
Act.
go even higher.
Exactly.
But the bottom line, though, is, are you a fan of this whole program, Chris? I'm assuming that you're not.
So how can I be a fan of anything that is probably costing jobs and putting too much, taxing people in an indirect way and preventing job creation? You can't.
Let's say in the next 48 hours they strike it down. What happens the very next day, though? Who steps in? Because it feels like the narrative, of course, by the media is that it's now in the GOP's court.
Right.
What are you going to do with it? Now, forget about Obama. What are you going to do about it? And I know there's a lot of plans floating around there because I had this Twitter battle all day long, but I haven't seen anything concrete with this is what we're going to do on Thursday.
No, I mean, the whole notion is put up or shut up, right? We've been talking about repealing it, getting rid of it. What is your plan?
Well,
there is no plan.
There's
That's
5
the bottom
plans.
line.
I mean, there's a number of plans.
But to Jim's point, if we have uncertainty,
there are a number of plans floating around out there, but what will Boehner say? What will McConnell say? What are they going to say? What's leadership going to say?
Get down the road.
You think they're going to try to extend the same subsidies?
They're going to basically take a victory lap. They're going to be a victory lap and say that they're behind us. They're able to repeal this portion of Obamacare, and they're going to go out there. But the problem is they're going to get hammered within 48 hours because they're going to say, well, okay, that's great, but what's your plan now?
It's repeal and replace. That was the whole thing, repeal or replace.
And think about the time it took to even get us to the point where we are today. We're going to need a lot of time. If they reverse this and change it, it's going to take a lot of time before we see changes in that plan.
I think they will put in a patch until the next presidential election. Then we'll know who the Republican nominee is, and between the nomination and the election, the Republicans will have the
From a
plan
legal
B.
point of view, Heather, can the patch be what the Supreme Court just struck down? I mean, they could actually keep the subsidies going, even though they were ruled unconstitutional?
They can, and that's one of the patches that they're talking about. They can extend it.
How do you do that?
Well, it's going to have to be an act of Congress. And this is a problem because President Obama is less than thrilled about the idea that the Supreme Court might knock this down. If they do, he's going to be less than thrilled with that idea. And so any law that they try to pass is going to have to really get by his veto and, the Democrats as well. We talked about the economy part of this. Do you guys see all of these mergers going on in this space? I want to let the audience know, what's driving some of this stuff, because listen to some of these numbers. United Health, since March 23rd, 2010, Obama signed this into law. United Health is up 260% since then. Cigna is up 340% since then. Aetna up 269% since then. Humana up 300% since then. Anthem up 169%. This thing, Chris, has been an amazing money-making machine for the health insurance companies, and now they're consolidating. Why?
Well, I think that they're preparing themselves for what may or may not happen. But the same side, Charles, why does anybody go through the M&A process, right? You want to fill some strategic gap or hole product offering and maybe squeeze out excess cost to be more efficient, deliver more to the bottom line.
But should I, as the consumer, read that, hey, this is going to cost me more?
I think that really
even more. I mean, we've already heard some. You see what's.
Well, one way or another, it's going to cost more. Remember what you said,
right?
Come 2016, things are going to get.
Well, the premiums are going to go through the roof.
That's exactly.
There's not many players there already. I mean, if these mergers go through, we own some United Health, but the other two go through. You only have a few big players left. Yeah, but I'll tell you about his premiums, though. I lost my health insurance for my small business when Obamacare came out. I just got a notice 2 weeks ago that it's being raised for the third time since that happened. We're almost 100% higher than we were. I'm a very small business. You multiply that by tens of thousands of small businesses around here. They're getting killed. And this is who profits.
Is there evidence that this is hurting the job market?
It could hurt the job market because those top 5 that are performing so well over the last 5 years, they've grown and they've added to the staff. But if we start to see some mergers, they're going to take synergies, and we're going to see reductions in staff.
But I think the marketplace will address part of that. You'll see new young companies. I think there's one in New York called Oscar, where they come up with these technology-based platforms. You will have entrepreneurial companies fill the vacuum that's created by the mergers of the big companies.
Well, I don't get what you're saying there, Jim.
Well, I'm saying that if all these people merge and try to raise rates, you'll have new companies come into the marketplace.
But they won't have the kind of breadth to cover. I mean, we're talking like 40 million people merging with 30 million. These are juggernaut companies.
Uber a couple of years ago didn't have the breadth. I mean, these technology companies can grow very quickly if the companies merge and raise rates and become uneconomic.
But can we talk about the 800-pound elephant in the room? The idea is that these are the guys that wrote Obamacare. I mean, honestly, they helped to write. They crafted it. I don't care what Pelosi says. She never read this thing. Right. So no wonder, pass it, because the insurance companies wrote it. They've made a tremendous amount of money on it. And I'm just really concerned that it's going to get a lot worse. When I see them merging like this, it feels like we're bracing for something bad.
Well, the thing that worries me is they're merging and hospitals are merging as well. So the availability of care and take away the money part of it, even though making money, the availability of care is just not going to be there. So that's an added problem.